And here we are, the best and finest and most wonderfulest day of the week. It's Monday.
Also known as the Winter Advisory Warning Day.
That's right.
That we all expected for Monday.
That's John King over there. I'm Peter Christian, joining us here in studio, folks, from Missoula Aging Services. It just seemed like it was a year ago. Wait a minute. It was a year ago when you guys were here in studio to talk about... now, remember how different it was last year? There was like 18 inches of snow on the ground, and you were kind of wading through. Yes,
through
snow.
Rain, sleet, or snow. We'll get the meals through.
Absolutely. Bernie O'Connor and Colleen Kernan are both joining us here in studio. So the microphone is evenly distributed between the two of you, but we need to have it in front of somebody. So Colleen? Oh, she's pointing at Bernie. Okay.
Play some rock, paper, scissors here.
Yes, we have shyness going on. I can't believe that from you. You're an actor.
Well, I was being gentlemanly.
Oh, there you go. Right. He's a gentlemanly.
Doesn't want to hog the spotlight.
A gentlemanly actor. All right. So tell us what's going on. March is a very important month for Missoula Aging Services. Right?
It is, and across the nation, too. It's the Meals on Wheels Association of America teams up with local Meals on Wheels programs, such as ours. And every month we have this great campaign called March for Meals. And bottom line, one of the things we do is we raise donations, but we also have a lot of fun doing it too. We educate local officials about our program by taking them on routes and introducing them to clients and seeing how the process works. And we also do the donation, but we have people participate in a way where they can solicit the participation of their neighbors and friends too.
Okay,
and there's gifts. There's prizes at the end of the month.
Oh, wonderful! Now, whose arm have you? Whom have you convinced to? Did I say that wrong? The city officials and various media personalities, luminaries, if you will, that are going to be helping out with this event.
Well, we have Mayor Engen, and he's participated quite a few years in this.
He's a stalwart.
Yes, he is.
Absolutely.
He is. And we've also had Representatives Dick Barrett and Ellie Hill from the Montana State Legislature, local representatives of that. Singer Huey Lewis has signed up to support the program as a community champion, and of course United Way's own Missoula County Director Susan Hay Patrick.
Now, what about the county commissioners? Are they going to be
all three of them? Yeah, all three of them are going to participate.
And what? No J.K. Simmons?
Well, you know, all those awards are holding him down.
It's hard to carry food when you're hauling an Oscar around.
That's right.
You can't call your mom, but you can come talk to other people's moms.
That's right.
But then the route would be like 5 hours long.
That event is called our Community Champions Week.
Okay.
When we're involving all of our elected officials and other luminaries.
Now, when exactly is Community Champions Week, Colleen? Get a little bit closer to the mic. There you go.
It begins March 16th, Monday, March 16th, day before St. Patty's Day.
Well, what you know.
That's right.
All right. Okay, that'll be fun.
And the day that we're doing all the drive-alongs with the elected officials is that Monday, the 16th.
Now, tell me how that day works, because now that we have a website where we can do video and that sort of thing, we'd love to follow around and kind of like the TV stations do and pretend like we're real journalists and and kind of follow along. When does that run and where do they go?
Well, every day when we run our meals out, they leave our dispatch office, which is at the Providence, right around a little after 10.
Okay.
And so the meals go out and arrive at our clients' homes between 11 and 1, I'd say, right around the noon hour.
Okay. So let's talk about that, which brings me to the Meals on Wheels anyway. Let's talk about the actual mechanics of how Meals on Wheels works. First of all, how many meals do they get? How do people sign up for it? Is there a cost involved? All these things are important information. So we're looking at each other. Okay, Bertie, go ahead.
I'll take it. We contract to Thomas Catering just because of the scale of what we're working with in Missoula County. We serve about 96,000 meals last year alone. Wow. So that's a lot of meals. So we can't simply do it out of our kitchen and expect to reach those many people. We're mandated to provide a third of the recommended daily intake in a meal. People can order more meals if necessary. We have sandwich meals and we have vegetarian meals, and we really have expanded the possibilities, variety of foods people can eat. So we try to deliver a hot meal. That's very important. And we provide frozen meals for weekends and on holidays, things like that. And then, of course, the sandwiches. But another real important part of this meal delivery is that volunteer interaction with the client. Sometimes that volunteer is the only person that person may see that day. So they develop trust and a relationship with these individuals, and they're able to really identify when there's a change going on with the client. And we have a social worker that's dedicated to the program who does the initial assessment of the client before they actually, they can start meals, but the social worker goes out and identifies the need of nutrition, make sure that they qualify for the program, but also look at what other needs they need. And if necessary, refer back to the office for a resource specialist or to another agency in the community if there are other needs.
Now, I know you're not delivering to 4-year-olds, but I am sure dietary restrictions come to play. I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean, if someone only wants gluten-free camel protein or chicken sticks or something, I mean, how do you work around people's requirements?
Well, in working with Thomas Cuisine Management very closely, we are able to meet lots of different dietary restrictions. So if a person did have a dietary restriction, such as needing to have a gluten-free diet, then the kitchen would provide that for them.
Okay.
Much in the same way that if a person had a need for a renal diet or a diabetic diet or a vegetarian diet, all of these needs can be met.
Okay, wow.
So
Well, that's got to be an enormous, if you will, a bookkeeping challenge.
Yes.
Just keeping track of, and you say how many meals do you deliver on a daily basis?
every day, Monday through Thursday, it's about 250 meals. On Fridays, it about doubles with the weekend meals, sending
What
the
happens
additional
on
meals.
Friday?
We send frozen meals out for the weekend so that people
yeah.
can heat up a good, nutritious meal for the weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
How does one qualify to get Meals on Wheels?
Well, for folks who are 60 and over, it's a contribution-based program, and for folks under 60, it is a fee-for-service. But the primary qualifier for anybody to receive Meals on Wheels is their homebound status. So if an individual can't get to the grocery store or, say, is in recovery, just had surgery, and there's an inability to do meal preparation for themselves, then these are two of several factors, I think, that would qualify a person for Meals on Wheels.
So March for Meals obviously is a fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
Is the program in jeopardy? Are you like running close to margins, or how is that working on the financial front? And when this money gets to you, where does it go?
Okay, Bertie.
Yeah. It does take a lot of money to run this program. We receive some money through what's called the Older Americans Act, Title III. Title III-C specifically provides some money to us, but of course it doesn't cover all these meals. So we look at other funding sources, and we really diversify our revenue streams. We have this donation base. We also look at the donations that clients might provide to us too. And as Colleen mentioned, over 60, it's donation-based. Under 60, she didn't mention fee-for-service, but it is sliding scale based on income. So, we really want people who have disabilities over the age of 18, under age of 60, to maintain their independence in their home just as much as an older adult. So go ahead.
We're going to take a break. Okay, stay with us because you know how this works, Bernie. Old radio guy right here. We're going to take not old radio guy. He's an experienced radio guy.
Aging.
I'm the old radio guy in the room. Doggone it. Anyway, we're coming right back with Colleen and Bertie. If you have a question or a comment, maybe Meals on Wheels has positively affected somebody you love as a member of your family, give us a call. Give these folks a pat on the back.
Both.
What's that?
I said I'll carbon date them both during the break, and we'll find out who's older.
I'm leaving right now. We'll be right back. And we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Love to have you give us a call this morning. We're talking with Bernie and Colleen from Missoula Aging Services about Meals on Wheels. And March is, of course, a big month for them. So go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, we were talking right before the break. You were talking about the finances, and you were talking about how people pay in and who kind of fits into the program. And one of the things that you had mentioned earlier was that subsection C of the what was it?
Title 3C
Of the
Older Americans Act.
Thank you very much. Covered some of the funding, but the rest comes from the public, basically.
Yes, and United Way, we submit a proposal to them on a regular basis, and they've been very supportive. We look at county mill money, we look at city money. There's a little teeny bit of state money involved, but all these figure into keeping us off a waiting list, which is our priority. We do not want a waiting list. That would be really difficult. I mean, when you think about people who are being discharged from the hospital, and this is an immediate service that they need, to put them on a wait list would be just really unfortunate.
Has there been a time like that in the past for Missoula Aging Service?
We've never had to with Meals on Wheels. We've had to do it with many of our other programs, but this is a flagship program, and we really put a lot towards it to prevent that from happening.
Okay, now I have to ask you this: is you experienced this firsthand as someone that runs a kind of quasi-government funded agency, right? It's partially funded by the government. Do you think it's better off that the public kind of gets personally involved in your program? I think a lot of people think of Missoula Aging Services, or specifically Meals on Wheels, in a way that they wouldn't think of other government programs, because there is direct personal involvement, not only in the carriers that volunteer, but in the funding that goes into the stream.
Well, I look at it this way. All those participants at that level, so say it be volunteers or people who privately donate, are preventing us having to spend more government money. I mean, this is an essential need for individuals to remain living at home. And one of the biggest outcomes of keeping people living independently is they don't end up into a long-term care situation, say a nursing home. And if you look at the cost of nursing homes, not many people can afford to be in a nursing home, and they end up being supplemented by the government to stay in a nursing home. And just, simple math, if you look at a hot meal at $6 a day compared to Medicaid covering somebody to be in a nursing home, it's $65,000 a year. So we're saving money.
Yeah.
Every time a volunteer signs up, that's not an hourly wage of an employee to deliver meals. We're very, very dependent upon our volunteers, not only to deliver the meals, but to keep track of our clients and build that relationship.
Now, when you don't have celebrities like Mary Engen and the county commissioners, and there are some TV newscasters who are going to be helping out as well. Who are the people that do this on an everyday basis? I mean, these are the stalwarts, if you will, of your program.
Right. I'm going to have Colleen talk to her because
Okay.
she's fabulous in her interactions with these people, and
Okay.
she keeps them on board.
Go ahead, Colleen.
I consider all of our volunteer drivers to be also just fantastic community champions themselves. And they're the ones who are coming day in, day out and making sure that all of our clients get their food. And as Bernie was saying, a really wonderful dynamic develops between our drivers and our clients that we serve. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, my route is the best route and my clients on my route are the best clients.
Sure,
But
So who has the best route? Where is that?
I've driven all of them, and I like them all. I can't be biased.
Well said, Coach.
Good dodge. Ready for politics already.
All right. Now, when it comes to these things, tell me about. Obviously, somebody just doesn't just waltz into your office and say, "I want to volunteer to drive," and say, "Oh, here are the keys." I mean, you have to check these people out, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Because this is. They're actually going into dozens of homes,
yes,
and so this has to be a trustworthy person.
Absolutely, because as you're saying, we do serve a very vulnerable portion of our population, and so any volunteer that goes through the agency, they go through a hiring process where they fill out an application and they list their references and they go through an interview and there's a background check. So because, as you said, we want to make sure that everybody's safe.
Sure, absolutely.
The honorable person test. I'd like to see, so we could just copy notes and maybe ask some of the politicians we get on just a few questions from the honorable person test.
Send us one of those, and we'll use it next time we have politicians here in the studio. So I'm sorry, you can't deliver Meals on Wheels, baby. You can't be in office.
How many volunteers are there in the Missoula area, and do you need more? How do people get involved?
are always looking for more volunteers. Right now, we have a crew of about a little over 100, I'd say, but it's about a 6-month commitment. So I have several snowbirds, for example, who are in Arizona or somewhere sunny for the winter. So of course they don't drive then. And then it switches seasonally. So I have our winter people who are available to and not intimidated by
by snow,
by the snow,
right,
and,
by
and
these
the
crazy
driving.
Montana winters that are so intense.
And then it switches seasonally. So then the snowbirds will come back, and the winter folks will perhaps go on their summer vacations. And
okay, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, I want to talk to you guys about this may be kind of a sticky one, but about privacy, because, like you say, you're looking into a lot of the areas of these folks, and some might feel, well, it's being a little bit intrusive into, because of various things that they may need. So we'll come back and talk about that. Plus, Matt is on the line to visit with you. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. We have our short segment here, so I want to go ahead and get to the phone and say good morning to Matt. Matt, you're on with Bernie and Colleen. Go ahead, sir.
How you doing? Well, normally this is the time when they call up and rant and rave about something. Well, I just wanted to call and tell you guys, Pete and John, how lucky you are to have that lovely woman in there with you. This is your friend Maddie, Colleen.
oh, hey, Maddie.
How you doing? She
I'm
does
doing
great
great.
work. She's a wonderful person. So give Peter some business and give him a few tips about bumper music, too.
What do you suggest, Maddie?
Actually, I would like to hear some Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young.
You got it.
Blue Eye.
Coming up next.
Wow, we're taking requests here
All
on
right.
Talkback.
Thanks for the call. Now,
Thanks,
now
Matt.
I asked you a question about some privacy issues. You had mentioned that many times the drivers will come in, they'll look around, they'll kind of be observant if there's something going on. So how do you? That's a very fine line to walk, Bernie, about how you handle that with the privacy of the client. So
It is. And, part of that process of onboarding somebody to the program as a volunteer, besides a criminal background check and the application, the interview, all that, we also we hand them a volunteer handbook, so they know what our policies are. And Colleen does a fabulous job of orienting these people to the program. And they sign a confidentiality statement. So if they're going to talk to anybody, they're going to talk to us.
Right.
And we're of the mind it's a need-to-know basis, minimal necessary. If it's something that that the volunteer identifies in the home that may endanger the individual, or if there's a need that they are in a direct way expressing, that's what comes back to us. And within the agency too, it's need to know. It's not something like we chit chat around coffee about clients. That's just not something we really adhere to what they call the HIPAA Act, Health Information Portability Accountability Act. We're very, very strong on confidentiality.
And you have mentioned all the times you've been here, and I like to repeat this, the fact that how many lives have been saved and people have been brought out of danger by Meals on Wheels drivers arriving, right?
Sure. Colleen could
Grab that, Colleen, and share a couple of stories. We have like a minute and a half.
Okay. Well, for example, if there was a situation a little while back where a client had fallen and could not get to the door and it was locked, and when the Meals on Wheels driver arrived, he followed the process exactly as he should have, following HIPAA and everything, and he, communicated with the client, said, "I will call 911 for you so we can get you the help that you need." Called 911, called us, called me, and we got the ball rolling, and we were able to help that client and get him up and get him the health care that he needed.
Okay, we have 1 minute left.
Yeah, 1 minute. I want to just give them a chance to both repeat kind of where people can go if they want to volunteer or donate. And
So if you're interested in volunteering, contact Missoula Aging Services. The number there is 728-7682. You can always go to our website, missoulaagingservices.org, for donation forms, for information for March for Meals, or to volunteer.
Sure, go ahead, Bernie.
or stop by our office and to pick up a donation form there too. And we're at 337 Stevens Avenue, just behind Orange Street Food Farm.
Tell me when the whole Champions thing is going on. What's that week, and who will be participating?
Community Champions Week, a week of March 16th through the 20th. The 16th is when the big guns drive. I say that with affection. And
enough said.
The whole month is dedicated to our donation drive.
Thanks, you guys.
You bet. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure having you guys.
Thank
here.
you. It's our pleasure.
We're going to come right back. Just leave that meal right there too. We're going to come right back.
To keep the internet strictly the way it is.
Now, one of the things that has been a concern that I've noticed a lot of people complaining about was that we have companies right now that can use their position as leverage to crowd out competition. Basically, they can slow the internet down for competitors, increase speeds to higher bidders, and that a lot of people were seeing this as a threat, that basically they could use their weight in the marketplace to silence free speech or make things less competitive so they can maintain their advantage, and that these net neutrality regulations will help prevent that from taking place.
Yeah, that's the idea. There's a few issues with that. One is Title II does not increase competition. I mean, most people are reasonably concerned about competition, and there are a lot of reasons why competition is not as good as it could be. A lot of this goes back to, again, giving telephone companies monopolies back in for decades, giving cable companies, cities gave cable companies monopolies, and we're still living with that overhang. But Title II doesn't improve competition, and to me that's the real shame of this net neutrality fight, which has been going on for a decade. The FCC has spent a lot of energy and many lawsuits fighting for net neutrality, when in that time they could have been doing constructive work on increasing competition, because a lot of the competition problems are at the local level, where cities don't let companies come in and tear up the streets to put new broadband lines in, or they require competitors to build out to cover an entire city when that's just not profitable when you've got other competitors already there. And so I frequently point to Google Fiber as a good model for broadband competition and what the FCC should be focused on. And Google Fiber, for those who don't know, has gone to a few cities, Kansas City, Austin, Texas, and worked with local regulators to streamline regulations, because there are many. The Seattle chief technology officer said Google Fiber will never come to Seattle because there's just too many rules that Google Fiber would have to comply with. And that's where I would like to see the FCC focus, and Title II does not get at that problem.
So what I hear you saying, Brent, is that Title II is old ideas trying to be pushed into a new type of business sector. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, that's right. What Title II really does is, so it was, as I said, it was intended for the AT&T long distance monopoly, and broadband doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like the AT&T monopoly, which was a government-blessed monopoly. People forget. Broadband's not like that. So what this does, what Title II rules do, it puts the burden on companies and tech companies when they come up with new broadband services. Now they'll need permission from the FCC before putting those out. Whereas before, they could experiment, Silicon Valley, fail fast, succeed fast, and move on. And now the burden has shifted. It used to be on the FCC or the antitrust agencies. They would have to say why a certain practice was harming consumers. Now it's the reverse. It's kind of presumed new business models and new technologies will harm consumers, and the companies will have to show that it doesn't.
Okay,
so it's like now bringing you the internet at the speed of bureaucracy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most people understand there are risks in that.
Right. We're up against a break, and we have Jack who wants to visit with. Jack, if you hold on just a moment, we have one line open, 721-1290. Brent Skorup is with us from the Mercatus Center. He's a research fellow there in Arlington, Virginia, talking more about, quote, net neutrality, end quote, right after this. 721-1290 is our number. A little suggested bumper music there. John King's over there. I'm Peter Christian. Joining us on the phone, Brent Skorup. He's with the Mercatus Center in Arlington, Virginia. We're talking about net neutrality.
Yeah, we also have a caller. Jack is on the line, so let's go to calls.
Right to the phone. Say good morning to Jack. Jack, you're up first. Hi.
Hi. I was calling because I had a question. What is net neutrality going to do to affect the consumer and or small business owners with websites?
With websites?
Well, as far as what I was told about net neutrality is that websites are going to start bidding with major broadband providers, and the smaller companies or smaller websites are going to get X'd out.
Okay, so what do you think? Brent, does that sound right to you?
No. So, and there's a lot of confusion about this. First,
thanks, Jack.
And thank you for the question. So there's this fear that broadband companies will block speech they don't like, or websites they don't like, or political opponents they don't like. This has never occurred, and we have pretty good reason to believe this won't occur. I mean, you can imagine the PR disaster it would be if that were discovered. And some of this is, so I'll give you an example of why you would want to allow companies to prioritize some traffic over others. And let's say, and this goes on today. People don't realize that if you receive phone service from your cable company, that's a special prioritized data stream. And people regard this as good if they know about it. And if you have video on demand from your cable company, that's a prioritized stream.
Is that like Netflix?
Yeah, not Netflix, but like if you have Charter or Comcast or whoever, you have video on demand through their service, it's prioritized. And that's because you do see congestion online. I mean, people with Netflix are familiar with this. You wouldn't want to treat every data stream exactly the same. You can imagine new broadband services. Let's say there's a telemedicine app that allows you to speak face-to-face with a doctor via video stream. You wouldn't want that broken up by someone doing a once-a-day data backup on their computer. A phone call or online. You wouldn't want that disrupted by, some low priority, something that could be
all of Peter's cat videos, for example.
Yeah, right. A child watching, cat videos in the next room. And so you want to give companies freedom to experiment with these new things. The idea that companies would block, someone's personal blog posts. I mean, it's very far-fetched. And,
let me
frankly,
ask you,
a lot of that would be illegal under the antitrust laws. You can't block competitors, in ways that harm consumers and competition.
Well, let me ask you this, because the argument has been used on the other side, as far as blocking and free speech and things like that, that these new regulations are going to introduce some of the old things we used to have in radio, like the fairness doctrine, into the internet, and that there's a whole book of stuff we don't know yet that's going to come crashing down on the internet in the near future. And I just wanted to get your take, because from what I've been able to read is that, frankly, none of this stuff has been released. What they voted on hasn't been disclosed, so we don't really know what's in there.
Right. So the FCC voted last week, and it's a long document. There's a lot of reasons for this. Just again, regulation, administrative procedure. They're making edits to the rules, trying to incorporate the dissent points. So these won't be released for several weeks, I imagine, and then they probably won't become law for months or possibly a year afterwards. The last time they tried to do this, the rules were struck down by court. It took them a while to put this out. So
I was just going to ask you.
There's a lot of mystery here, which makes people a little nervous. And I've got to say, there's reporting on the FCC is going to have this so-called general conduct standard, which is a lot of discretion for the FCC. And one of the factors they're going to consider for new broadband services, what tech companies come out with, is the effect of that technology on free expression. And that's a lot of discretion for the FCC. I wouldn't call it the fairness doctrine, but you can see the slippery slope this leads us to if you have an agency trying to predict what certain technologies and certain broadband services will have on expression.
Now, we're up against another break, and we have Tyler waiting on the line, but I can imagine we're entering into an area where attorneys are weeping with greed over all this because of all the potential lawsuits. Well, we'll come back and talk more with Brent Skorup, and Tyler will get your call on. We also have a line open, 721-1290.
Peter's pointing at me, so I guess I got to make a joke now. I hope the lawyers are fighting for as many dog videos as there are cat videos, so we can equal it out that way.
We'll be right back. 721-1290, something has never happened before with a guest on the phone. Brent Skorup is with us in the Mercatus Center, and you got a fire alarm going off there in your building. Is that right, Brent?
Yeah, we do. There's. I'm not sure if it's real or another drill, but someone burnt the popcorn perhaps. But yeah, I might actually have to run. I apologize for this. I'll try to call back if I'm back in the next few minutes.
This is what happens when you're
take callers' calls.
Yeah, this is what happens when you're on an influential show like Talkback. Yeah. Somebody's got to stop you.
The FCC's got to get in there somehow. They don't
definitely sabotage.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, so should we say goodbye and then maybe you'll call us back when you can?
Yeah. I'll give you a call as soon as I can.
All right. Cool.
Thanks for the call. So let's get Tyler on the line. Tyler, I am so sorry. Brent had to bail because of a fire alarm. First time that ever happened. So, what?
Well, that's an utter disappointment, but it's okay. It's understandable. I'm sure that NSA got a hold of him and tripped that fire alarm because he was on the phone talking to us. One thing that people need to understand is that this ruling affects everything that you use to connect to the internet. Every service, which includes cell phone service. My question to your guest, which he isn't there, was based on what I've read and John, you brought it up, is that this document hasn't been released to the public. Congress hasn't even been briefed on it yet.
Yeah, and even the parts of it that we know, like we know what Title II reads. We can go look it up. It's been around for 70+ years.
Right,
but the problem is they've also said that they're like not going to use all of it, so we don't really know what parts of Title II are going to be enacted.
This sounds vaguely Nancy Pelosi-esque.
It's kind of like, hey, we're smarter than you. Let us figure this document out.
It is literally 100%. We're going to pass it, and you'll find out what's in it when we tell you what's in it. And the government is telling us, well, this is what we're going to do, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And it is another attempt at the government to take down this country economically.
Well,
your guest said earlier, there is absolutely nothing wrong with what's going on now. The way things are going on now, innovation spawns innovation, and this ruling is just going to stop it.
And you let, and I know this is such a hard concept for people in government to wrap their heads around, but you let the marketplace work this all out and stay the heck out of it.
Well, the only reason why you would get into that argument and argue it from the government side is if you don't like the way our market system works. Our market will figure it out. Our system will figure it out. And it has, and it's brought the internet to the world. But the FCC is going to end that. So I hope your guest calls back and can explain where he's getting his sources on. I mean, just the simple definition of net neutrality. That makes this ruling, and the name of this ruling, makes as much sense as the Affordable Care Act. I mean, come on, Jack.
I hear you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Tyler. 721-1290. We got a Facebook comment.
I got a couple. Claire says, did the government mandate a second month of February? If it's like the first half of February, I'd be cool with it, but I don't like the cold half of February.
Okay, got it.
Doc says, in that no one has seen the entire document, the 330-plus pages of new regulations, does he really know what it entails, or is he just guessing, hoping about its contents? Many have expressed concerns of government censorship, licensures of websites, taxes, and more that are lurking in the details. And I think that a lot of those concerns were also expressed by our guest while he was on. But yeah, a lot of people, we just don't know because, it'd be really tough for them to pass a piece of legislation that's going to affect everybody and not tell us what's in it.
Well, here's how we're going to find out what's in it. Is when you let's say, for instance, right now I have Charter. I get my internet through Charter. So the way the average consumer is going to find out is either one of two ways. Either A, when I'm watching a James Bond movie on Netflix, all of a sudden it stop buffer, stop buffer, stop buffer, stop buffer, and that starts happening. Or I get my Charter bill, and it has gone from whatever, say $75 to like $125 because we have to jump through all these extra government hoops. That's probably the way that people are going to find out just exactly what these new FCC rules will do. Just as a happy, ignorant consumer, that's what I'm thinking. So
well, and I think that for a lot of people, the net neutrality concerns are partially valid. I mean, in a lot of communities, the internet doesn't have competition, right? So you have a natural monopoly. And you also have the ability of whoever's in that monopoly to slow down or increase the speed of a competitor. I mean, it's like, people in Walmart, I'm just throwing out an example here, nothing against the Walmart people.
All right.
But
okay.
Walmart having the ability to slow traffic lanes to get to Target. Would that be fair? Or Target being able to slow traffic lanes to get to Walmart, when the traffic lanes are, kind of a public
right of way. Yeah.
And so that's where it gets kind of dicey, and as I had mentioned, like a lot of these internet monopolies have like no non-compete clauses for each other, and they're only in certain areas. So, like the true open marketplace, it's not only hard to get into the marketplace, but those that are there have the ability to restrict the flow of those that want to get in.
But let me ask you, would it in the current atmosphere of the government not having done a lot recently to bolster our confidence in it, if you know what I mean, do you trust the government to step in and do the wise thing for the consumer here?
Well, I think the best argument for keeping the things that they was the status quo was pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
The internet was great.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what this brand new frontier is going to bring.
Used to could. Anyway, so
when I was a kid, we watched whatever we wanted on YouTube.
That's right. We're going to come right back. Don, we'll get your call on momentarily. We have one line ringing and one line open. We'll be right back. KGVO, hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. 1-800-568-5309. A Facebook comment, John.
Elena says, the Administrative Procedures Act requires all agency rules to be published in the Federal Register 30 days before they become effective. The FCC has not published the new rules, and there hasn't been a public comment period. So I'd think there'd be a lot of negative publicity when it does appear. And I think she's probably right. Already some of that's starting to leak out.
Yeah. All right, let's get another.
Oh, no, go.
Let's get to the phone. Say good morning to Don. Don, thank you for your patience. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, no problem. Good morning. Yeah, you just have to look at history. I remember when Bush #1, whatever thoughts he had, but they convinced him to regulate cable when cable was kind of coming out and being the new frontier, and it didn't. And what they told us, it was going to help, reduce the cost of cable. It didn't. it went through the roof. Competition was eliminated. As the gentleman that chatted on earlier was talking about Google in Seattle, Google's like the big dog, and they can't even do what they want to do in a tiny town of Seattle because Seattle won't let them advance, human resources in regards to faster internet, et cetera. And that's today. So you can imagine how it's going to be. This has got nothing to do with helping us. It's got everything to do with control. China is the #1 country that has absolute control over their internet. Just recently, they shipped a bunch of Lenovo laptops to America, and they forgot that there was the particular software, malware, bug, or chip in it that, that they could get into your computer whenever they wanted. And they just said, sorry, we made a mistake.
Well, you know what? You made a great point about how it seems to me that, and I haven't read these 330-plus pages like anybody else, but if you are going to equalize the speed that people can use the internet, and make everything equal as far as who's presenting their content over the web, it seems like there's a disincentive to develop faster ways of doing traffic. Because unless you're going to be able to make money on someone getting their information out faster than others, what encouragement do you have to build a faster system?
Well, that's true. And you look at I'll just never forget when back in the late 90s when the internet was just starting to come into fruition, because I remember 27K was the speed. And Al Gore said he put taxes on airline tickets to get internet into all the schools, because he felt that, sounds like a good thing, that we need to have our kids educated, so on and so forth. At that point in time, already 75% of the schools had internet in the country. And that tax is still there on those airline tickets.
All right.
But
Don,
it's incredible.
Thanks for the call, man.
Yeah, you bet. Bye.
Appreciate it. Emmett, you're on Talkback. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I'm very disturbed about this net neutrality. It's a fascinating conversation. I came in late, but it may have been brought up. I'm kind of disappointed the guest isn't here. I would have maybe if he comes back, he could answer this. I'm worried, like Rush Limbaugh was saying a couple of days ago, about government censorship. I mean, and, they could say, well, we don't like this in the interest of the common good, this Alex Jones show, or this conspiracy show about the federal government. We're going to have to shut this down. The public doesn't want to see this, meaning government control. Or you might have to get a license if you have an internet site, your own website, and you're talking about aliens and the Greada Treaty, and the government can say, no, you can't talk about the Greada Treaty with aliens. We're going to have to shut you down, or 9/11 Truth. So and of course, the price will go up. People will be forced to go back to cable TV and forced to watch government-run CNN, because a lot of the youth don't watch cable, they watch the internet, and a lot of people get their news from the internet. So I'm afraid it's one big conspiracy. It's just horrible. It's absolutely unconstitutional. Another reason we have got to impeach Obama.
Okay, Emmett.
Maybe the guest could talk about that when he gets back, if he does.
Good luck with that.
If he survives the fire.
If he hasn't been abducted by the aliens or something.
Wow. Okay. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to bring up, I think it was Elena who had mentioned that there was this comment period that should be opening up here shortly.
Right.
There is an article right now up on the Wall Street Journal by Gordon Kravitz called "Liberals Mugged by Obamanet." Now, if you don't know much about the FCC vote, it was a bipartisan panel. Right. You have two Republicans, two Democrats, and then you have a fifth person, which just happens to be an Obama nominee. Okay?
Absolutely.
So that went, basically all Dems went for the FCC regulations, Republicans all opposed. Here's the article. When Google's Eric Schmidt called White House officials a few weeks ago to oppose President Obama's demand that the internet be regulated as a utility, they told him to buzz off. The chairman of the company that led lobbying for net neutrality learned the Obama plan, made it in the name, instead micromanages the internet. Mr. Schmidt is not the only liberal mugged by the reality of Obamanet. Approved on party lines last week by Federal Communications Commission, the 300-plus pages of regulations remain secret, but as details leak out, liberals have joined the opposition to ending the internet as we know it. The Progressive Policy Institute said, quote, "There is nothing progressive about the FCC backsliding to common carrier rules dating back to the 1930s, end quote. The Internet Society, a net neutrality advocate, said, quote, "We are concerned with the FCC's decision to base new rules for the modern Internet on decades-old telephone regulations designed for a very different technological era," end quote. Former Clinton official Larry Irving wrote in The Hill, quote, "Most of today's proponents of a utility model for the Internet either have forgotten or never knew the genesis of the regulatory restraint model that helped spur and continues to support internet expansion." So anyway, you have a bunch of people that were advocates for the idea of net neutrality coming about against the practice of what was actually passed.
Because their ox is being gored, pretty much.
Well, the concern is that everyone's ox. Everybody has a stake in the internet, right?
So maybe that's the government's intention, is to piss everybody off. You know? It's working. Way to go. Mission accomplished. All right. So
never has a government set out to do something and been so successful.
Way to go. Nice
Let
job.
them eat cake.
All right. We're going to take a break. Candy, we'll get your call out in a moment. We have two lines open. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. Why can't they just leave it alone? Come on. Jeez. We'll come right back. Thanks for joining us on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. And we do happen to have Brent Skorup back with us. Evidently, false alarm there on the fire alarm. So everything okay?
Yeah. I'm I'm back. So yeah, someone must have burned popcorn or something. We got back in after a few minutes.
Fantastic. Well, we do have a caller that wants to visit with you. So let's get Candy on the line. Candy, you're on with Brent. Go ahead, please.
Well, Brent, hi. How are you? You're from Chicago. I'm from Chicago, 1971 version, though.
Oh, great.
I love it out here, so you should come. Anyway, you guys were talking about the net neutrality, and I'm going to try to work this in. This has to do with our local paper, and I have discovered that in our local paper, we do not always get our local news. It's how can you say, it's flushed out of the local paper and usually goes to our regional and state, Montana and regional paper. So with your net neutrality, we're experiencing it in our local paper, the Missoulian, which was supposed to have information about a local water company being taken over by eminent domain. And as I look in my papers from those dates last week, there is nothing in our local paper that says anything about it. So I'm afraid that...
Did you happen to see this morning's paper with a big discussion about with Mountain Water employees talking about the effect of what's happening? It was quite a several pages long. So
yes, and this was in the Sunday paper. I understand that.
Okay, all right. But you know what? This has nothing to do with net neutrality. I'm sorry. So go ahead. I'm sorry. What's that?
I was just saying, Brent may not have a lot of experience with the Missoulian.
Right, exactly.
Much better with the internet. Now, Brent, one of the things that kind of came up while you were gone is the question about how you know anything about what you're talking about since the document hasn't been released.
Yeah, that's a fair question. So the lines we've known the basic parameters for years. I mean, this has been, as I said, a 10-year fight. The arguments are fairly well sketched out. The legal arguments, the policy arguments, and the caller's right. We don't know the precise details, but it's not a mystery to anybody. What the basic parameters will look like, and and further, the FCC chairman, Tom Wheeler, who spearheaded this, has put out, I think it was a 4-page memo, basically going over exactly what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, certainly I don't know at a granular level what it's going to look like, but it's no mystery, the basic gist.
Okay, let's get another caller on the line. Eric, you are on with Brent Skorup. Go ahead.
Yes, Peter, you made an interesting comment that maybe the government is trying to piss all of us off.
Sorry.
And no, that's fine. That's legitimate.
Common euphemism. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. But I'd like to bring this back to the Declaration of Independence, where it says that our rights come from God himself. And if that's true, and government is trying to suppress speech, then the government is railing against God himself, not against us specifically. But the primary offense is against God himself. And I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call. Well, I'm sure that has full control of the cloud, so to speak. So, sorry. Don't mean to be disrespectful there. So,
okay, here's a common refrain. This is from Christine. She says, net neutrality is Obamacare for the internet, passed on party lines through illegal channels and not read by the public, but worse than Obamacare, it is being put through to fix problems that don't exist. Personally, I think it is censorship and a revenue bill. Just wait until they start permitting websites through licensing fees. Are any of these things, I mean, at some point, I guess you got to say how much of what is being talked about as being possibly in here is just kind of fear-mongering, and what's actually real, Brent? How do you know the difference?
So there's a lot of heated language on both sides of this, obviously, and the caller, or the commenter is right. This has been politicized, which is a real shame, because the internet in itself, I mean, it's a network. It's copper, it's wires, it's cable. I mean, it's not a political entity in itself, but this has been very politicized. And Title II, I mean, it should be said, the telephone regulations that they're trying to apply, this was not a political subject, even a year ago. So when the FCC last tried to use Title II in 2010, 75 congressional Democrats signed a letter telling them not to do that. There's a sharp division among Democrats on the right way forward, and this has been pushed by a subset of tech companies and activists and others. And yeah, Title II is fairly extreme. As I said, it's 1934 policies for the old monopoly that just doesn't exist anymore in broadband.
Brent, wouldn't it have been so much easier for all of us and everybody in the media and on the internet and yourself, people who study this for a living, wouldn't it have been so much easier for them to simply release the document so that everybody could see it and digest it and look at it, and at least if they have an opinion, they can have an informed opinion?
Yeah, so that's a good point, and certainly more transparency is better, and it will get released eventually. I mean, this is not going to be a secret forever. Certainly there's concerns. I imagine they were concerned, before they could make modifications, something would be taken and might kill the bill. This is kind of what happened a year ago when the FCC released a weaker version. Someone leaked it to the press, and it got people really riled up, and so they went stronger with the rules, the ones we have now. So I think they're concerned about that happening again, where they'd be undermined by a leak. And also, I mean, there's just administrative policy where they have to make edits, and I don't think it's that unusual for these things to be kept under wraps until the very end. But again, this is an unprecedented policy and unprecedented times.
All right, we got to go to a break here, but when we get back, one of the things that came up while you were off the air was a concern from one of our callers and myself that the new regulations will stymie growth in technology and stymie increased speeds on the internet. I wanted to see if you agree with that line of thinking and what your take is, and whether or not you've actually been able to see any results already from the investment on the investment side in this realm.
Okay, coming back in 1 minute, and we have two lines open at 721-1290. Hey, welcome back to Talk Back. Just a few precious minutes left in our radio program. Joining us on the phone is Brent Skorup. He's with the Mercatus Center. He's a research fellow there in Arlington, Virginia, talking about net neutrality. And you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wanting to ask if he kind of agreed with me and one of our callers earlier that had concerns about maybe these new regulations slowing down growth in internet technology, slowing down the speed of the internet because of less incentives for people to put new wire and new technology in the ground. If you could go off on that a little bit, Brent, would be welcome.
Yeah, good question. So in the short term, I think people believe not much is going to happen because this will be litigated, and it's not clear if the rules will stand up. If the rules do go forward, I predict it's hard to say with the larger companies what's going to happen. I mean, certainly investors will be more nervous knowing that all these old regulations, some of which don't make sense, are going to be used on them. That would probably hurt some investment. It's more the small guys I'd be worried about, and people might not be aware. There are small cable companies out there, small that cover a couple hundred people, and the idea, some of these are mom and pop shops. There's another internet company industry called WISPs, wireless internet service providers, that cover people in rural areas, and they have a lot of constraints on what sorts of services they can provide, and often these are very small companies, and these are the ones that would be harmed absolutely by these rules. The regulatory costs of complying with all this would drive many out of business, which I don't think anyone regards as a good thing.
Okay.
Oh, and you asked about speeds.
Yeah.
So net neutrality doesn't do anything about speeds. It doesn't force upgrades in speeds, and certainly if there's loss of investment, you could see long-term a stagnation in speeds, which is what I'd be concerned about. But Net neutrality itself doesn't do anything about speed.
Let me lay out my concern here real quick, because it seems to me in the current marketplace you have incentives for people to sell higher speeds, and sometimes that higher speeds can be to particular companies. Let's say, for example, Netflix or HBO Go, or someone that wants to get video content, which is data intensive, to the customer as fast as possible, and they could pay a little bit more to get that data out there. So you have the free market basically encouraging people to pour money into faster technology to deliver a good that the government or the public may not know that they want yet. On the other side, in the new equal everybody playing on the same playing field, you don't necessarily have that money going into those developments.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's a human universal. Everyone thinks they pay too much for everything they pay for, and the same is true of broadband. And frankly, the internet companies have not helped themselves. They do have customer service problems, but that's not unique to broadband companies. So, yeah, I mean, that's right. You want to give these companies flexibility to increase their speeds, and Title II puts the burden on them if they want a new business plan or a new way of gaining revenue.
All right.
And I'll say, I have Comcast, so this is why I'm mentioning Comcast, not for any particular reason, but 12 years ago, you could get a 20th of the speed of what I have now, and it costs exactly the same. So another way of putting it, Comcast in my area has increased the speeds 20 times and not increased the price, which is that's pretty good. This is not the tale of stagnation and monopoly that you'll frequently hear net neutrality people complain about.
Okay, let's get back to the phone. Say good morning to Susan. Susan, go ahead. You're on with Brent Skorup. Go ahead.
Well, I received a very lengthy letter of support of my position from Senator Steve Daines, and in his letter he said he is the co-sponsor of the Federal Communication Commission's Process Reform Act of 2015, which is Senate Bill 421, which increases transparency and opportunities for public awareness, pending the executive actions that he feels are wrong with this net neutrality. I'd like your guess, and there's no time, but at bare minimum, I want people to contact Steve Daines at his offices anywhere and ask about his Senate Bill 421.
Okay. Thanks, Susan. So, Brent, have you heard about that?
Yeah, there have been various bills put forward with FCC process reform, and I'm not surprised to hear that this opaque process and this politicized process of net neutrality is soliciting more legislation. And if there's a silver lining to this net neutrality thing, it's the fact that it's bringing the FCC and some of its problems to the forefront and making it known to the public. It's a little-known agency in my experience. Most people, when I talk about the FCC, they know it as the agency that bungled the Janet Jackson Super Bowl, the wardrobe malfunction. That's what most people think of it. It's actually a very powerful agency that and is currently trying to gain authority to regulate one of the most dynamic sectors in the U.S. economy, and that is communications and tech companies.
Well, I will tell you this. Brent. I've been in radio for 40 years, and we have always referred to the FCC as Uncle Charlie. Uncle Charlie's coming to visit today, so they come and look at our towers, and they look at our coverage footprint and whether we're doing EAS tests all right,
or we have the right number of PSAs per hour,
exactly.
Per day.
I mean, it's like wow. So they want to take a giant leap and land smack in the middle of a very, very high tech area that I'm not sure they're ready to handle.
Yeah, I agree. And in DC, we call this the Mother May I approach. That radio companies and TV companies and others have to ask Mother May I to the FCC.
Hey Brent, we're almost completely out of time. So if you could tell us how we can contact you and get more information about the Mercatus Center.
Sure, you can find me at mercatus.org, and also I'm on Twitter, bskorup, SKORUP. On Twitter, bskorup is my Twitter handle.
Great, excellent. Thanks so much for being with us, Brent. We look forward to talking with you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good one.
All right. Tomorrow, John.
Rob Natelson, a constitutional scholar and friend of the show, will be on to talk about all kinds of stuff, but especially freedom of the press.
Have a great day, everybody.